Okay, so we are recording. First of all, I need your permission to record and share this with my class.
You have my permission.
Very good, thank you. I'm here with Brooke Hushagen, one of the owners of Hushagen Goat Grazing, and we're here to talk about her journey in becoming an entrepreneur. So before we get started, I want to learn a little bit more about where you came from, who you are. So tell me about your family first.
Okay, I'm married with 3 daughters. They're 6, 9, and 11. I came from a farming family. I grew up on a dairy farm over in the Driftless area, and always had a love of animals, I guess. A couple years ago, we actually probably about 6 years ago now, we bought our first pet goats. We started out with 2 pygmy goats, so that kind of started the love of goats, and yeah, the business kind of has blossomed from there.
Good, good. So you said you come from a farming family, so that's obviously a little bit of entrepreneurship there, starting their own business. Do either of your parents have businesses of their own?
Yes, actually, both my parents have their own businesses.
Mm-hmm.
They always have been self-employed, I guess. Well, there was a brief stint, I guess my dad was not. He worked for another farmer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my parents have been self-employed both with the dairy farm. My mom has raised and sold dogs and horses all of her adult life. She had a successful real estate business that I grew up with, that being my mom's job, I guess the main portion of my at-home time. When I graduated high school and moved on to college, my dad sold the milking cows and went to raising beef for a number of years and then renting his cropland out. Then he went to work for another farmer, and now he has opened, just recently in the last couple of years, a lawn mowing and snow plowing business of his own.
Goodness, I didn't know that. All right, very good. Tell me about your day job.
My day job, I am a forestry technician with the Department of Natural Resources right here in Poynette. I've held that job since fall of 2000. So I basically go out and manage our state lands in Columbia and in Dodge and sometimes Sauk County, making sure the forests are healthy, planting trees, marking timber for harvest, doing all kinds of, I guess, things to ensure the forests are healthy, and do fire control with that too. So we put out wildfires and we educate kids and adults alike with lots of fire prevention messages. We work closely with the fire departments. We work with invasive species a lot too, in my forestry related job, which kind of led me to the goat grazing business as well. Southern Wisconsin is riddled with invasive species, and we can't seem to do timber management until we get the invasive species under control. So that's usually the first step in any timber sale, is assessing how bad the invasives are before we can cut any trees.
What other activities keep you busy besides your business, your work, family? Anything else that you do that dives into your schedule?
I like to shoot pool and play softball, both on women's teams. It's kind of my weekly girls' night out that I enjoy. And then, yeah, lots of activities with my girls and husband.
Very good. Is Hushagen Goat Grazing the only business you have owned?
In my adult life, yes.
Okay.
When I was in middle school, I had rabbits, and I bred and sold rabbits. It started as a sort of a class project as an entrepreneur. Part of, I think I was in 7th grade or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we each had to make up a logo and have a business plan and advertise and do all that. And mine was like it could be fictional or real, and mine actually turned out to be real, and it was a pretty good moneymaker for a 7th grader for a while there.
I bet. That's awesome. All right. And what about your husband? What does he do?
He is a self-employed carpenter.
Okay. So I know you hit on it a little bit, but tell me more about your business.
So we have a herd of goats. They're mostly meat breed goats. And people hire us and hire the goats to graze their properties. Some of them have different goals. Some of their goal is to reduce the invasive species on their property. Sometimes it's just to clear out an empty lot so they can have better access to it. Sometimes it's both of those things. Clear it out so they can have better access to work on the invasives themselves. Sometimes, just recently, a nursing home hired us to both clear some of the brush and help entertain the residents and the staff there. So that's the main part of it. The second part of it, the secondary portion of the business that makes money, is to actually sell the young goats of the year for meat in the fall or winter time. So we sell them by the pound, take them to the sales barn, and folks buy them for meat.
I know we talked a little bit about, your inspiration being your day job and, going through the timber sales and that sort of thing. Is there anything else that inspired you to say this is something that we need to do?
I think it's a more natural way to fight invasives. There's a lot of media lately about different pesticides that we use in our daily lives. There's, obviously a huge organic foods movement and organic everything. So using goats is a more natural approach to reducing invasives over time. So I like the idea of that, and so do a lot of other people. I think they can be, used in conjunction with those types of things, but reducing our herbicide footprint is always a good thing. And goats are fun.
I was just going to say that.
We love springtime of the year when we breed our goats in the fall, and then they have 5 months gestation period, and then the babies are born in the spring. So that's always a really fun time of the year too.
About how many babies get born every spring?
This year we had around 30.
All right. Once you decided that it was time to start a business, that this was something you wanted to do, what were your first steps in seeing it happen?
My business partner and I, of course, we had discussed it for many months prior to deciding that, hey, let's do it. It had been an idea floating around, and other people do this too. We'd heard of other companies that had their business, but there wasn't one in our area, close by here in the Madison area. There's one a little further south. So I guess first things we did, we kind of decided how many animals we wanted to have. We tried to figure out what types of facilities they needed, where we could get the food for them, where we could allocate or get hay, I guess was the main thing. Then we just kind of started using our own money and purchasing fence and fencers and the infrastructure we needed, and started collecting goats and getting some goat advice from local farmers that raise goats. Beyond that, we did contact a lawyer to work on forming our LLC. There were some other issues to work through that as well, with a perceived conflict of interest with my current employer, so we wanted to check into any legal ramifications of that, so we did that.
When you're talking about legal, were there any regulatory compliant things you had to look at? Moving animals, taking down wild weeds, I guess. Anything like that hit in?
There's a livestock, I guess, health concern. You have to have your animals. Each producer that produces a certain number of animals each year has to register.
Okay.
And we have to have our own, I don't remember exactly what it's called. It's like a herd registration number. So
Okay.
we have a producer number, so each of our animals has to have a tag in their ear with our number on it, so they can track where the animal came from. Should there be some type of outbreak, they can trace it back to the farm that it was at.
Okay.
Otherwise, as far as regulations, It's nothing official, but we do have liability insurance should anything tragic happen. We have a certain amount of coverage for that.
Okay. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your partner. Like, what made you decide that you were going to use a partner for your business, and then how did you pick that was going to be the person?
My business partner is also in natural resources. He also has a farming background, dairy farm. He is a wildlife technician as well, or maybe not as well, but wildlife technician for the DNR. So we work together on a daily basis. We see each other. We don't necessarily do the same things, but he had an interest in getting a little bit more into farming, and like I said, the idea floated around for a number of months that goats are cool, and this is a kind of a upcoming idea, and we started to see a little more hype and a little more activity with people looking for this type of service. And yeah, I guess that's probably about it.
Okay, good. Let's see, where are we here? Okay, so we talked a little bit about competition. Obviously, Herbicide is one of the competitors that you have for this market. You also said that there was a company not in the area, it was a bit south. Any other competitors that have popped up since you started the business, or were you aware of any others that we were concerned about?
Not concerned about. I mean, I think there's still plenty of room throughout Wisconsin for more of us. We're having to turn down some clients that are a little too far away, both for convenience for us, since we still work full time and have our own families and activities that we like to do. So we've had to put a limit on how far we can graze. So there are certain spots in the state where there's room for more. So far, it's been a good relationship with the grazer to the south of us. If there's a job that's too far for her, she passes them along to us, and we do the same. They can't find us.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so far so good. And we've bought goats from her before, and
Okay,
we have a good relationship so far with her.
good. Good.
I've heard there are some others popping up. I'm not sure exactly where in the state. They're not close enough to affect us yet. So there's a couple down in southwestern Wisconsin that we're aware of too. That one has worked for one of our clients this year before, but it was a very long haul for them. So when we quoted this landowner that had hired them before, we were a lot more inexpensive since we didn't have the travel time. So.
Okay. You talked a little bit about, the kind of the range that you go. So what is your territory?
We like to stay within an hour and a half of Poinet.
And if you had like a perfect customer that you would market to, who is that target customer you're looking at?
Probably hobby farmers, people with small acreage, with a bit of woods. Our herd is I guess I don't know how big or small it is in comparison. I know the woman to the south, she has up over 100 goats, where we're sitting at about 60,
Okay.
and we graze with about 40. So if we can get a job done in 2 to 3 weeks, that's kind of our wheelhouse. Probably 2 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks is our wheelhouse. So that's roughly about 1 to 3 acres, I guess, is kind of our sweet spot. Anything more than that is taking too much time for the goats to do, and it's a lot to bite off for a landowner, because a lot of them like to go in after the goats are gone and do a bunch of work themselves. So an acre of woods is a lot of area to cover. So
Right.
yeah, 1 to 3 probably will be the sweet spot.
Okay. Good. How do you advertise to your customers? How do they find out about you?
Facebook is our main advertising that we've done. We haven't had to invest any more money in Facebook. I did a $35 ad last year to help boost a post that was getting a lot of local hype just from friends and family seeing it. Otherwise, we're popping up on Google now, which is kind of cool. People are looking up goat grazing. And otherwise, just T-shirts and bumper stickers on our car,
And you do signs where the goats are too.
Yes, yep. We have the little sign that we post.
And I think just the presence of the goats alone, especially because it's such a new thing, I think that seems to draw in a lot of attention too.
Sure.
They like to see them bouncing around and
Yep,
what they're
yep.
up to.
When we had them at that nursing home in Wanakee, the owner commented that it was stopping traffic, that people were really slowing down and trying to figure out why there were goats in town at the nursing home. So,
Awesome. Okay, let's see. We're at the 15-minute mark, but I have a few more questions. So do you feel like your business is successful today?
yes, yep. We seem to get more clients and more business each year. Income from the business is going up. We're gathering more animals too, so we're at about carrying capacity. 60 goats is about as many as we can handle during summertime, so we're probably going to try and stay around that number. So yeah, we might actually turn a profit this year,
Awesome.
which they say after 4 years, I think that's the key.
And is that how long you've been in business? 4 years?
Yep, this is our 4th season grazing.
Let's see. Do you ever envision yourself leaving your full-time job and doing this as your livelihood?
Probably only in retirement.
Okay. Are there any indicators to you that say it's time to get out of the business?
Not yet.
What are things that you would look for?
If it was consuming too much of my personal time, or cutting too much into my regular job, or if clients weren't calling. Everything we have is liquid assets. We could sell everything we have today, and we don't have any debt. So I guess there's not a whole lot of risk assumed, other than we would be sad not having any more goats, but we could sell everything we have and still be in a good spot.
Do you name all your goats?
We do.
Do you have help with that?
Yes. My daughters and Greg's daughter definitely help us with the naming.
Looking back at your whole business ownership career, is there anything that sticks out as the biggest challenge along the way?
The biggest challenge, I guess, is something very specific to this job, would be trying to estimate how long a job is going to take and trying to find the right pricing point where folks would still want to hire us and it would still be worth our time. So we're still constantly evaluating that, I guess.
That's been a challenge for a lot of people in the class too, as we're working on our business, trying to figure out what that sweet spot is. Very last question. Any advice to people who are looking to start their own business?
High
level advice.
Yeah. I'd say don't, be willing to take some risk, but I'm a pretty safe person as it goes, so I wasn't willing to take off more risk than I could handle. So be confident but not overconfident, I guess.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to